This WQED Education podcast is made possible by the Ready to Learn Initiative, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and listeners like you. Thank you.
My name is Jen Ford, and welcome to the Wonderful World of Work podcast. Do you like playing with blocks, Legos, and other toys that help you to create and build? Have you ever looked at a building or piece of furniture and wondered, who built that and how? Carpenters are people who build and repair things that are made from wood. They use their creativity and special technical skills to build many different things around our communities. This episode's special guest is Antoine Malloy, a professional carpenter and owner of Malloy Contracting, LLC. Antoine's specialty is home renovations, and we are thrilled to have him here with us to learn more about careers in carpentry. Welcome, Antoine, and thank you for joining us. Tell me about your career as a carpenter. What drew you to this career?
Okay, so honestly, when I was younger, my parents always had me and my brothers play with Legos and things like that, and Bionicles was my thing. I wasn't as creative as the brothers with the Legos, but I still like the building process. So the Bionicles was my thing. And then that was elementary school. And then going into high school and middle school, I did things just as small, like changing a doorknob out. Or even in high school, our school had a program called Work Crew. And what it was a small school. So we would be able to do different renovations in the school building during school hours, which actually also piqued my interest in the field. But I'm really a guy who likes working with my hands. I really, really enjoy it. It makes me feel, I guess, a sense of accomplishment where it's like, okay, I really just did that. And it's a really cool feeling to look back at your work and be like, okay, we can do this. And there's always so much creativity and so many options that you can do with all types of carpentry or construction fields in general.
It's really neat that you talked about how your interest in this career started at the toys that you used to play with when you were a kid. So it's really great to show that those interests we have as kids can grow with us and turn into something really exciting like a career
Yeah,
field.
exactly. So,
What type of training or schooling was needed to become a carpenter?
so for me, I started out in the union, the Carpenters Union. They start as commercial carpentry. So that's mainly building really, really big buildings from hospitals all the way to skyscrapers. So that was a 4-year training. You are working as an apprentice and you have your different first all up to 4th year. And then after your 4th year, you get a certificate to be a master carpenter is what I currently am. So I got my journeyman's and my training through there. We go to school, even a degree from CCAC is just actually official training. So it was hard, but it was fun. And it's definitely worth it. Because it gives you that confidence and that knowing that, okay, I'm comfortable with doing these kinds of things and knowing that it can be done the correct way.
Sure. So starting in your program and learning how to build big buildings like skyscrapers, and then taking it to what you do now, doing home renovations. What are your favorite kinds of projects to do as a carpenter?
For me, I really like floors. I know it's weird, but it's one of those things where a floor can change the entire look of a room. And it's not terribly taxing to your body. I know a lot of things can be hard on you, but a floor is something that really, really gets me excited because there's so many different options of a floor, so many different looks, colors, patterns, and just matching a floor kind of brings the entire room together. And then the thing that I like doing is just the actual building of a wall. I don't know if that makes sense, where I can take just piles of wood and make an entire wall or make 3 or 4 walls. And you can really see the beginning process of, okay, this was a blank canvas and now I can see everything coming together. So I think those two, the really beginning part and then the really far end, just like the flooring, the finishing touches, are my favorite parts.
Sure. So taking those small pieces, just like your Lego blocks and your Bionicles, and building them until you get that final
Yeah.
product, seeing it from start to finish. That's really cool. We know that everyone makes mistakes. How do you learn from mistakes that you might make on the job?
So the good thing about my job is that even if I make a mistake, uh, anything can be fixed. So I know starting out, even I was younger, I got good grades in high school. I was straight A student, all those kinds of things, all the way high school, middle school, elementary. Um, so I was kind of hard on myself. I always wanted to do it right, and I want things to be done right. But being in carpentry helped me accept myself. Like, okay, Antoine, it's okay if something isn't done right away. If you make a mistake, take a step back. Don't be hard on yourself, and just fix it. It's not that bad. And honestly, people can learn from mistakes. So you know that next time, if I'm going to do this certain project, I don't want to do it this same way because it didn't work out for me. So every mistake is a learning process. It's not a bad thing that you did. Just take from it and learn from it. So that's how that's helped me a lot with the mistakes. It's not that big of a deal.
Sure. I love that viewpoint. I think it's so important to realize that we all can make mistakes, but like you said, you can fix it. You just have to sometimes take that step back, take that breath, really think about your next step, and then learn from that process.
Yeah.
Great advice. Speaking of advice, what advice do you have for anyone wanting to become a carpenter or for someone who wants to pursue any career in the trades?
I would say give it a try. And everyone, sometimes they get a bad rap where, people think you're not as cool or not as smart, but it's fun. For me, it's one of the funnest things that I could have even thought about doing. Even growing up, I thought I wanted to be a FBI agent or something different. And then getting into the trades, it occurred to me like, I really, really, really enjoy this work. This is something that I can smile about. And it's a rewarding job. There's no better feeling, like I said before, of looking back like, okay, I did this entire project, or I lent a hand in building this house or fixing this project. Something else that I really love about it is that I'm able to help people, even because not everyone's in the same environment. And so if someone has a problem at their house, or if it's just a leaky sink, or if they have a hole in their wall, um, it's nice knowing that I'm comfortable and I have that ability and I have that chance to help someone out, because a lot of people don't have that know-how or don't have that kind of knowledge. And even though it's small to me or it can be small to whoever, it can be a very, very, very big deal to the homeowner or to a friend. I mean, there's been friends and family where they're going through something or something happened and they're not able to uh, get the certain renovations, or they need a change of their house just to fix, where I'm able to, I can step in and help them out, and I don't have to charge them or anything like that. It's just being nice and being kind and helping people out in a way that you're able to.
So, this career has really given you an opportunity to create things, to build things, to use your hands, and also to help others in many different ways to have repairs made to their homes, to help them to feel better about their
Yeah.
situation. It sounds like a career in carpentry just opens so many
Yeah, it
doors.
does. Now I'm very, very thankful for it. My parents kind of nudged me towards it. And at first I was like, do I want to do this? And then I got into it, was like, yes, I'm glad that I got a little nudge, that final nudge to be like, let's do this. Let's make the decision to go into this field. So I'm thankful for it for sure.
Sometimes it does take that outside person, like a parent or a friend or a teacher, to notice those qualities or those skills that you have and then kind of like nudge you in that direction. So it's really amazing that you had people in your life that were able to help you along in making that
Yeah,
decision.
yeah, definitely agree.
Thank you so much, Antoine, for joining us today and talking with us about your career as a carpenter. And we appreciate everything we learned from you today and the ways of what a carpenter does to how it makes you feel as a person as you've accomplished something so great as helping someone else to make their dreams come
Of
true.
course. Thank you for having me. My name is Antoine Malloy, and I love helping people on their journey to their dream home.
In my quest to find new perspectives on careers in the trades, I took a field trip to the Western Area Career and Technical Center, located in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. This school, formerly dubbed the VOTEC, services high school students and adults in Washington County looking for the hands-on training needed to jumpstart a career in the trades. The WACTC boasts an impressive lineup of programs, from cosmetology to automation robotics engineering technology, to health services careers, and more. Mr. James Pertell, principal of the school, sat down to talk with me about the unique advantages that a career and technology school can provide, and how the WACTC and schools like it are making strides to shed the inaccurate perceptions that have been held for years. Let's see what Mr. Pertell has to share. In the past, we used to refer to this learning environment as the VOTEC. What do you want people to know about Western Area Career and Technical Center and other schools that are like it?
Well, the Pennsylvania Department of Ed and the Bureau of Career and Technology Education, they made the switch from the vocational training schools to career and technology centers about a decade ago to start moving away from that VOTEC stigma that's been around for generations and generations. So specifically about Western Area Career and Technology Center, we have 15 programs that were all put together to serve the area that we're in. So whenever this school was, I think it was built 50 years ago, so that would have been in 70. They saw the need of the county, and that's what drives the programs that are in career and technical centers. It has to be considered a high priority occupation, otherwise known as HPOs. And so that way, when employers are in need of the skill set, they can come and reach out to the Career and Technology Center, not just, WACTC, but anywhere else up in Allegheny County. You have Parkway West, you have Steel Center. So it's all the programs that are in any specific Career and Technology Center are all based upon the need of the area. But yeah, so about Western area, again, we have 15 programs. Our newest one was our rehab aid sports med program, which was brand new this year. So we're certainly looking for that program to grow, and I certainly would like to see all of our programs filled. Usually the ones that do every year in most career and tech centers across the state are your welding programs, your cosmetology programs, automotive technology, health occupations is always filled, networking is always filled. But we would definitely like to see some of our programs where the enrollment is not quite maxed out, certainly begin to fill.
It sounds like you have a wide range of opportunities here, and that it is fitting the needs of the community is a really interesting thing, because then it gives kids who are at this center a chance to find employment as soon as they finish their program.
Oh, 100%. We have our cooperative education program with Miss Anderson here. She's her, number one goal is to find students employment. We had a cooperative education night back in the fall where Miss Anderson contacted all the employers that we had not established any kind of relationship with, or it's been a few years since we had a relationship with them. We had them all here for a great dinner that our our culinary students made. And we went through a presentation with them, how we'd like to start building those bridges so that we can create a pipeline from everyone's saying they can't find work, or they can't find employees, and we're sitting here like, we're graduating 125, 150 students a year that have a basic skill set at the very least, depending on the student, that could feed right into these employers. And we also we're big, myself and Mr. Milanovich, our executive director, we're big proponents of getting employers in here to to present to the students on what to expect. And, we have a job fair every year that Miss Anderson puts together where, I think this last time we had 44 employers here. Some were hiring that day, offering, or at least offering jobs and, and setting, interviews up with our students. So, and it can be fairly lucrative. I mean, we're talking, family sustaining wages of, 18 to 20, $22 an hour, full benefits. So, it's an excellent opportunity.
Thanks. Careers in the trade aren't ones that all children consider. How can we expose children to more career options in the trades?
Specifically here in Western area, our career counselor, Kim Cowden, she's also new this year, as in myself and Mr. Milanovich. She goes out to presents in all 9 sending schools, in the elementary schools. I want to say it's usually 3rd or 5th grade, depending on, every school district's different because we service all 9 in the county. And then we also do 7th grade presentations, and then we also have 9th grade tours where the students actually come here and you see every program and so forth. And then we also offer the students a shadowing opportunity. So if Jaden Smith comes and she can't decide between health occupations, sports med, and cosmetology, then she can come here and spend a half day or the whole day, depending on how many programs she wants to see. And she can, and she would be paired up with a student here as soon as she got off the bus, and she would experience what a day in the life of a career tech center is.
How can we challenge the stigma surrounding a person's choice not to obtain a traditional bachelor's degree?
I think that's probably twofold in my opinion. First and foremost, you have to demonstrate to the students that, you can again acquire employment at a family sustaining rate right out of graduating from here. And that that the employers will more than likely offer them, the in-house training specific to whatever company they are. And then they can work their way up from there. A lot of employers will pay for students to go back if the job that they were brought in on, or a job that they grow into within the company, requires some sort of post-secondary education, that the employers will be fill a foot in the tuition bill, not the students, hence not bearing them in debt, which, post-secondary school can be quite expensive, And then on the second leg of that, also the parents need to realize that, their son or daughter can acquire gainful employment right out of high school and not needing to go into a 2 or 4 year school. We see so many times students go in, they're undecided, and then they're making, decisions in there to change majors. That's adding on additional time to their schooling. Of course, an additional time equates to additional tuition, which is additional debt. So, and if they do decide to go to post-secondary, we have a very extensive articulation agreements with several local schools, as well as all the programs offer the SOAR program, and that stands for Students Occupationally and Academically Ready, that they can acquire, provided that they get the grades that they need to while they're here. If they score their A's in, say, welding, they could go into CCAC with advanced standing of 9 or 12 credits, whatever that agreement is, if that's their chosen path after high school. So that could, you're going in with those credits and in turn saving money. So, coming to a CTC, you can, it offers more avenues, in my opinion, to the student. Whereas, when they're not that the regular high school is bad, but it's just there's definitely more options, in my opinion, coming to the CTC. So we try to do our best to. I was one of myself and Mr. Milanovich's big pushes was to build those relationships with the employers, because we've talked to more than a dozen easily that and their answer was, we didn't know you guys existed, and they're within 8 or 10 miles of our school, and it's kind of like, why didn't they know? So we're definitely trying to get the word out as soon as possible. Yep.
Thank you so much for taking the time today.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure.
When we approach mistakes with our growth mindset thinking, mistakes can be a powerful learning tool. For this episode's Growth Mindset Challenge, ask a grown-up to tell you about a time that they have made a mistake in their life. After listening to their story, ask them, what did they learn from their mistake? Then, think about a mistake that you have made. Share this with your grown-up and think of some ways that this mistake has helped you to grow. Hey kids, we hope you enjoyed learning about today's exciting career. Tune in next time to learn about a new job to consider from the wonderful world of work. Parents and caregivers, it's time now to talk to our panel of educators about important soft skills that you can help your child to develop, making both their today and tomorrow brighter. Today's panelists include Leanne Kruger, kindergarten teacher in the Pittsburgh Public School District, and Elaine Volpe, head of youth services at the Bethel Park Public Library. Let's see what our panelists have to share with us. Careers in the trade aren't ones that all children consider. How can we expose children to more career options in the trades?
So I was going to say, first and foremost, to share stories, right? And not just the types of stories that you would check out at your library, which of course is wonderful, stories that you could read together that would highlight many different careers, not just your traditional 4-year careers that you have to go to college for, but all different types. But I'm talking about just the stories that we can tell. So maybe you share that story about a relative who used to be a carpenter and built his own house, right? Or the uncle who built you that favorite tree house when you were younger. Or point out and praise the worker who fixed your car that broke down suddenly, right? And then allowed you to get to your vacation destination, right? Just to point out and talk about and commend all these different types of careers whenever we get the opportunity to do so. So I think just sharing stories can be such an important part of that, right?
I think that's a great point. I think sometimes kids encounter different people in the community and throughout the world, and they don't really realize exactly what that person's role is until you drop
what exactly they do, right? Or the effect that they can have on us. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great point.
I agree. And thinking, as the mind of a kindergarten teacher, just being purposeful in the stories that we are telling to the kids and the books that we are reading, and making sure that we're exposing them to those other sort of trade jobs and experiences that are out there, and just be purposeful in our discussions with them to know that these are really important jobs too, and they really help to really make the world go round.
How can we as educators challenge the stigma surrounding a person's choice not to obtain a bachelor's degree or go to a more traditional college or school route?
I thought about that as there are different ways to succeed. Going to college, yes, is a way to succeed and be successful, but there are many other ways to succeed and be successful in life, through learning a trade, through working with your hands, through helping people in that way, is just as important as obtaining a degree and working in a different environment.
Yeah, I would second that, and just to echo those same sentiments, I think just promoting the other careers as much as we can, right? So if you are in the classroom and you're doing a unit on careers, to bring in as many outside speakers as possible, and to highlight as many different options, as you possibly can. And I think too, like along with being purposeful in what we do as educators, I think we also have to be very careful of what we say. And I'll never forget a teacher that I had, way back when, and somebody in my class, I think, wanted to be a plumber, right? And she said, "Oh, you don't want to do that. You're too smart for that." Well, who says you don't have to be smart to be a plumber? You absolutely do. And that reminds me of something that one of my favorite college professors once said. It's, you never ask somebody, "Are you smart?" You would never ask anybody that anyway. But the question isn't, "Are you smart?" It's, "How are you smart?" Right? And I think every career, it takes a different type of intelligence and a different type of smart, um, and a different type of training. But none of those, like Leanne said, you can be just as successful in any one of those careers.
And I do think, how you said, Elaine, in the past, a teacher made that sort of comment. And I think I experienced that as well as a student, hearing teachers say things like that about, positions in the trades. And hopefully, times are changing and people are much more aware and have a better understanding of how important
Right.
those jobs are and how smart and uh, thinking outside of the box you have to be successful in those sorts of jobs.
Elaine, I think that was a great point that we need to be more conscious of how we talk about different careers. You mentioned your teacher that made that comment about, being too smart for certain careers. I think too that, I know personally I came from parents who the only thing we knew that we were going to do was go to college. That was the big thing. I feel like everyone in my generation, it was expected that we all go to college. And, that was just what was really harped on to us in school. And not many of us knew that there was other opportunities or other ways to success. And we often did think that kids who chose things like a vocational center, we were like, well, what are they doing? Are they ever going to be successful? So I think that really readdressing the way that we've looked at things in education, and as far as people pursuing the futures they'd like to have. I think it's really
Right.
important that we're mindful of all those other avenues as educators so that we can start to kind of change the language when it comes to helping kids plan for their futures and think about what they want to do when they're older. What are some soft skills that a carpenter might need while on the job?
I feel like I made a pretty long list for this one.
I,
This was one of my favorite interviews that we listened to, but I said dependability. The people that work in the trades, they're in such a high demand. So being someone that is organized and communicates clearly and get back to that person when they're looking for a carpenter or looking for someone to do the job. I also said friendliness and good public speaking because it's a lot of interacting that you have to do with the customers or the people that you're working with. So I thought those were good skills that someone would need to have too, as well as being respectful and diligent, making sure they see the job through, that those would be good soft skills.
I had those same three written down, right? Communication, which I think is extremely important no matter what field you go into. But listening skills, whether or not you're listening to your coworkers or your boss give instructions, or you're listening to your customer, right? To make sure you are giving them what they need and what they expect. So I think listening skills are also very important. Um, as well as solving skills, right? You might show up to a job thinking you have the right fix in mind, and lo and behold, you get in there and whatever you had planned all of a sudden doesn't work. You have to be um, quick on your feet and go to plan B, right? And know how to solve problems in multiple ways, not just one certain way. I think that would be important too, specifically for this field.
I definitely agree. So, you guys brought up some really great skills: dependability, problem solving, listening skills, communication skills. What are some ways that we as educators can help to build these soft skills in the classroom and also in our community programs?
I was thinking a lot about project based learning activities where you work in a team or with a partner so that you can work on listening to each other and communicating clearly with each other. Also, providing a lot of opportunities to work with manipulatives so they can work with their hands and build with Legos or blocks or, connecting pipe, things that are getting their hands moving and working and figuring things out and solving problems together were things that I thought would benefit, those sorts of soft skills in a classroom.
Absolutely. And not only does that address kids that might have different career interests down the line, but it's also just addressing those different types of learners that we have in our classroom. And by providing them with those opportunities, when they're that small, it really starts to show them what their strengths are and how they do learn and how they could use those skills in their futures as
Yep, I
well.
agree with that. I'm not in the classroom setting, but here in our public library, we do have a play space. And I think it's really important that we switch out our play materials often, which we do on a monthly basis. And we put out different learning materials, different types of hands on toys, different types of manipulatives. So that children, can get exposed to all those things. And I think also, again, I'm not teaching classes, but well, we do here at the library. We have many different programs. I do a lot of story times as well. And I think even as early as, toddler and preschool, giving those children a chance to speak and really listening to what they have to say. So whether you're asking questions about the story and they're engaging in the story, making predictions or trying to solve the problem or whatever it may be, really taking time to listen to what the kids have to say and giving them that opportunity to speak and to share ideas and to share opinions,
Absolutely. I think that's important as well. I think sometimes we get so caught up in, we have to get A, B, and C accomplished today that sometimes we forget to kind of stop and smell the roses along the way and really just enjoy and be in the moment with those learning experiences with our students or our friends that are coming in to visit our
Mhm.
community programs. So I think that's a great thing to remember as well. So we've talked about some ways that we can help to build these soft skills in the classrooms, but we have parents that are listening today. What are some ways that parents can work on these soft skills with their children? Problem solving, dependability, listening, communication. How can they help to build those in their own children?
So I think something as simple as, if you're talking about dependability and being reliable, something as simple as, a chore chart where your children have a list of things that need to be accomplished, before the end of the week. I think that can go a long way, just in teaching, responsibility, dependability, um, and, to go along with problem solving. I think, just modeling that behavior. It's one thing to say something to our children and to encourage them to do it, but it's something else entirely when they actually see us doing it. So if we could actively solve problems with our children, or when we run into a problem, talk out loud, talk it out with them so that they see um, us modeling that behavior and, and learning from our mistakes and not getting frustrated and losing our temper when we make a mistake, but talking through it and maybe looking for a new approach. Well, how could I do this different? Whether it be a recipe that we mess up in the kitchen or something that we're building from IKEA that didn't go right, whatever it is, not getting frustrated, teaching them not to be embarrassed. Just how can we look at this and how can we make it better? How can we improve? What could we do differently? I think if they see us modeling those same things that we preach to them all the time, that can make a huge difference as well.
I agree with you. I think it's important to talk out loud when we do face problems, just to model those things for our children. And I think the first couple times you do it, you feel kind of silly because you're kind of like posing these like they're kind of like statements that you don't really
Mhm.
expect an answer to, but you're just throwing these statements out there. Oh, I made this mistake, and now I'm going to try to do this to fix it. And you feel kind of silly, but then you realize your child starts to jump in and kind of offer their ideas as well. And then you're kind of like a little problem solving think tank together. And it really is just a good learning opportunity for them to see, the different ways that you can face a problem. That's a great.
And I think
Yes.
too,
Yeah.
as a parent, not if a mistake happens or something happens, not being the one to so quickly jump in and try to solve it, holding back a little bit to allow your child that time to maybe think through it and find a way to solve that or fix that mistake on their own. Yeah.
I think we do often want to save our children and, be the one to swoop in and save the day. But you're right. There are so many things that they can do independently if we just watch and see and then, maybe offer that guidance or feedback after they've kind of gone through that process and really just give them the opportunity to be successful.
And sometimes it's hard to watch or to sit back and allow it to happen, but just giving that breath in that minute and seeing what the kids are able to come up with on their own.
We thank our panelists for participating in today's discussion and for sharing their insights on ways that we can continue guiding our children towards successful todays and tomorrows. Be sure to keep an eye out for the next installment of The Wonderful World of Work. I'm Jennifer Ford, and thank you for listening and learning with us today.
To get more information and resources about this week's episode, you can visit www.wqed.org/edu.